The desert did not announce danger. It simply stretched, wide, silent, unforgiving. This was no longer Mecca's narrow streets or whispered threats in the dark. The ground was open now. Intent was visible. Consequences were unavoidable. Faith and power were about to face each other under the same sky. The journey that led here had already changed everything. Migration had turned into foundation. Survival had turned into structure.
Medina was no longer only a refuge. It was becoming a center. And centers attract resistance.
Opposition had not disappeared. It had regrouped. Confidence returned, sharpened by pride and the belief that numbers would succeed where intimidation had failed. They believed this day would restore control. The believers stood fewer in number, lighter in equipment, and inexperienced in open battle. But something had changed since Mecca. They were no longer scattered, no longer uncertain of who they were. Faith had taken form. As the sun rose and dust settled across the plain, movement slowed, voices lowered.
The moment before conflict arrived heavy, deliberate. This was not chaos yet. This was decision.
Today, we restore order.
Our numbers will overwhelm them.
They will not escape this time.
Steady. Remember what we've learned.
We may be few, but we stand together.
Faith guides us. Hold your ground.
Among the believers stood Ali, not separated, not elevated, just present.
Leadership in moments like this does not begin with shouting or display. It begins with composure. Ali had already proven loyalty in silence and courage in restraint. Now came something different: visibility. When the challenge was called, it was meant to intimidate, step forward, or accept weakness. This was not only physical, it was psychological. Everyone felt the weight of that pause. Ali stepped forward, not rushed, not provoked, steady. He did not look to the crowd for approval. He did not seek confidence from numbers. He moved because the moment demanded presence. This was the first time many saw him this way, not as youth, not as companion in quiet moments, but as a representative. And representation carries weight. Across the field, confidence shifted, not vanished, recalculated. Courage without noise unsettles expectation. The clash that followed was not spectacle. It was focus, not domination, but message. That intimidation would not decide outcomes. That belief would not retreat simply because the field was wide.
And when it ended decisively. Not because strength was overwhelming, but because resolve was undeniable.
The challenge has been called. Who will answer? Who answers? He's going.
The field returned to silence, but it was not the same silence as before. It carried realization. This moment did not belong to one man alone. It belonged to everyone who witnessed it. Something essential had been proven. Courage could be visible without recklessness, strength without cruelty, leadership without arrogance.
The conflict did not end that day. The struggle did not disappear. But the narrative changed. Until now, opposition believed exposure would weaken faith. Instead, exposure refined it. The believers stood taller, not because everything was won, but because nothing had broken them. Ali returned to the ranks without celebration or separation, because the role he played was never about standing above others. It was about standing when needed. Stories moved faster than armies. People spoke of discipline, of restraint, of courage that did not lose itself to anger. Reputation reshapes encounters before they begin. This balance was captured in Revelation. كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. Patience here was not weakness. It was controlled courage.
It feels different now.
Yes. Not victory. Understanding.
They thought exposure would weaken us.
Instead, it showed who we are.
Nothing broke.
You're back.
I never left.
I never left. They showed restraint and resolve.
This day did not end the struggle. It clarified it. Faith would now meet force with principle.
Numbers alone would no longer decide legitimacy. The era of silent endurance had passed, and the era of disciplined defense had begun.
Leadership in faith is often misunderstood. It is not the absence of fear, it is the management of it. Ali did not deny danger. He acknowledged it and moved anyway. As the sun climbed higher, the battlefield returned to stillness. But history had already shifted, not loudly, but permanently. Later generations would remember battles by name, but this day mattered not for what was gained, but for what was established. A standard, from silence to presence, from presence to defense, from defense to leadership. This was the day Ali stood before an army, not to prove superiority, but to demonstrate that faith, once rooted, does not retreat from daylight.
And greater tests were coming. Tests not only of strength, but of judgment. Not only of courage, but of leadership. The legacy was no longer forming in the shadows. It was unfolding in the open.
This was not the end of the conflict. It was the beginning of a different test, because the next battle would not be fought only with swords, but with discipline, unity, and restraint. And Ali would soon be tested, not in stepping forward, but in holding the line.